did you already start it?
Just now.
Okay. Some of you have been still not quite doing puja correctly and warm up at the feet, especially the warm up I'm concerned with. Puja you can do in your head, right? In the northern style, the classic way of doing the puja is like this. And then into the feet. Then, also, I want you to notice, how close are her legs to me? And also, how far forward am I? Am I positioned below the feet? No. I'm far forward. Why? Because what I want to do is place my soft hand right here, and I just want to tilt. There's no reaching, there's no pushing, there's no grabbing. It's just tilt, 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 tilt. Palm walk out, palm walk back, and finish on the inside of the heel. See how my hands are right next to my legs? Okay? So that puts the heel of my hand inside the inside heel of the client, right? And so actually now, because of my position, when I do this little tilt, if we checked in with her, she would tell you it's quite a solid pressure. Okay? It's not a light pressure. It's quite a solid pressure. We would call it broad, deep, non-specific, non-ballistic compression. Broad, deep, non-specific, non-ballistic compression. And literally, I'm actually sitting on my hand. That's what I'm transferring weight from the core. So I'm actually sitting on my hand. So this is quite solid. Now, if I do this correctly, as I go out and back, I'll do it again, the foot will have a tendency to want to flatten. Okay? But I am not trying to make it flatten. It rolls out because of my position. And of course, we call that positional release. In other words, the release happens because of our relationship, not because I'm trying to make the foot flatten out. Okay? So, rock on and rock on. So it's not rock on and off, it's just rock on and rock on. See, I'm really a rocker. You see, I never get off of it. Once I get on it, I never get off of it. So that's how you know if you're really a rocker, right? You never get tired. You never get off. Your happy place is on top of the speakers, not in front. All right. So here, 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 and here. Remember those concerts I snuck into? I forgot to tell you the part where sometimes I ended up on the stage because that was the best place to hear the most. The bestest. I forgot. I didn't tell you about where at a Lou Reed concert where they grabbed me up by the back of my shirt and dragged me out the back door from his dressing room. I didn't tell you that part. You know, I'm just a little richer. I didn't tell you that. No reason to go into that stuff. Okay. But when you have fervor, you got fervor. When you want to get on something, by God, get on it. Don't be tentative, okay? Now, we come back to the center, okay? And I'm pointing at the core. Massage people say, oh, you're pointing at the heart. And I'm like, no. Because circulation has very little to do with the heart. I hate to break your heart with this unpopular phrasing, okay? Because they think everything has to go to the heart. I don't know what that is about. Anyway, talk to a cardiologist and they'll tell you that primary circulation is not driven by the heart. It's driven by capillary muscular contraction in the extremities. You cannot not move lymph and circulation toward the core of the body because it moves that way without you. See? You're not even involved. In fact, no matter how hard you press on a body part, you can't make the circulation go away from the core. If you can push hard enough to move circulation out of the core toward the extremities, you will break something. And that's how you know you can't do it. Okay? Anyway, so I'm pointing toward the core, and the core for me is the navel. That's Rome. All roads lead to Rome. That's where all the chakras, all the meridians, that's where all of the fascia and connective tissue for the whole body come from. So always, that's my visualization. That's my horizon. That's my look toward the horizon to see where I'm going. Is the navel, is the belly, is the abdomen, is the core of the body. Pelvis, abdomen especially, right? All right, now, so that's where my hands are. And then I'm medial, which means clearly, if the toes were turned straight up, there's an imaginary line down the foot. Everything outside that imaginary line is lateral, and everything inside that imaginary line is medial. But that's actually not the way the Thais say it. They've never said that. I said that. I made that up. I was probably the first teacher to ever use that terminology, being one of the very first Phalangs to ever learn this. Okay? What the Thais say is male, female. Everything outside that line is male. Everything inside that line is female. That's Ayurveda, that's Marma, but it's also, look behind me, acupuncture. And in the north of Thailand, it's mostly people of Chinese extraction. In other words, somewhere in your family tree are some Chinese people, right? And they even speak Chinese language. And my best friends in Chiang Mai, their great-grandfather was Chinese. And they immigrated to Thailand, and they assimilated with the Laotian and the Burmese and the Thai people and so on. But they also still are fond of acupuncture. And they use acupuncture language and acupuncture terminology. Now, you wouldn't know that if you don't know acupuncture language and terminology, but if you do, you'll go into places, even like a Karen village, and they'll be working. You ask them what they're doing, and they're going to tell you a concept that comes from acupuncture. Male and female, okay? Now, it's not about gender, okay? It's about eccentric, concentric energy. It's about energy that has a tendency to go inner, and about energy that has a tendency to spin out. In other words, to go away. So these lines, these energy lines, these sin lines, these meridians are tending to carry the energy toward the core, to the core. These energy lines on the outside of the leg are tending to bring the energy out from the core to the foot, where they do that little loop-de-loop. Okay? One loop happens at the knee. There's actually energy like down and up that happens at the knee. And then there's other deeper lines like cincollatery and so on, gallbladder, okay, that go all the way to the foot, okay, and then come up internally. But when we're doing a treatment, we bring energy to the female lines first. The reason we bring energy to the female lines first is because that is, by definition, grounding and centering. Grounding and centering. So my client just came from somewhere, right? She just got on the mat. I don't know where she came from. I don't know what she had to do to get here. She might have had to fight up river and jump over rocks like a salmon to get to my office today. So she gets on the mat. Is she on the mat just because she parked herself on the mat? And the answer is no. There's carryover. There's carryover. Her life has followed her in a little bit. So what I want to do is put her in the dirt. I want to put her in the ground. I want to center her to be in a more receptive state energetically to receive pressure, energy, attention, consciousness, breath, and pressure. And so my fingers are pointing toward the core. That's not just a metaphor for this energy flow. It's because I see how my hand does not cross that line. Okay, so this is not it. The second these fingers get over that line, from our point of view, that creates a short circuit. Because everywhere both of my hand parts touch, the heel of my hand on the female, the fingers of my hand on the male, right there is neutralizing. Neutralizing. But I don't want to neutralize. What I want to do is when I work on the female, I want to stimulate the female. Stimulate the female is the same as sedate. Stimulate the female is the same as ground. Stimulate the female is the same as center, especially in women. Okay? And right now I'm not concerned with left side, right side, is my client a male or female, or who cares? That's not what it's about. It's about we have this polarity within us, so let's use it to create a really good outcome for the client. It's not for me, right? So anyway, now, so the first positions, now my stride is the length of my hand. My stride. So when you walk across the floor, the average distance from your left to your right foot, from your left heel to your right heel, and again, where they meet the floor is called your stride. You can measure it with a tape measure, and you can actually say for any person, what is their average stride? What is their stride? And that tells you something about the pelvis. Stride tells you something about the pelvis. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you're like me, and you're naturally inclined because I had a birth defect in my pelvis so that my feet were pointing backwards when I was born. They're actually pointing the wrong direction. And the first year or so of my life, maybe 2 years, I was in a steel brace where they turned my feet forward and there were rods between my ankles and my knees to keep my legs always pointing forward. And I had to use like a little walker thing to get around when I first started walking, okay? Well, I still turn out like a duck. You can follow me down the beach. You can be on a crowded beach and you say, I wonder where Dr. J is, and you can't see him. You just look at the footprints in the sand, and when you see Charlie Chaplin, because I'm not paying attention, right? I'm just casually, I'm not micromanaging my stride, right? You just look for Charlie Chaplin and follow that, and you'll eventually find me, okay? Because the only time I turn in is when I'm paying attention, if I do it on purpose. Okay, but that turnout means also my stride is shorter than it should be for someone my height. Why? Because my feet are out, and so the steps are closer together. Do you get it? Right? If I was normal, natural, so when I turn my feet in, which I've learned to do, my stride is longer. I have more swing in my hips, which also changes the relationship of my pelvis to my low back. How about that? When I have back pain, I look at my feet and I go, damn it, they're pointing in the wrong direction. And so I start paying attention. I walk from the house to the classroom, and I plant my feet in front of them, and I walk like that. Okay? Why? Because it releases stress on my pelvis. It actually releases tension in my low back. I have less pain. I want to see where she turns out. Now, the stride is the length of your hand from heel to fingertip. So how many steps is it to her knee? 1. So it's 1, 1, 2, 2, and I'm already at her knee. It's not like 5 steps. The stride is the length of your hand. Actually, it's the length of hers. I shorten up a little bit because all body measurements are relative to the proportion and symmetry of the client's body. So when I say the stride is the length of the hand, it's not my hand. See, hold your hand up, put it against mine, heel to heel. Do you guys see a difference? Oh, yeah. Okay? So when I'm walking on her leg, I take, for me, baby steps. I have to shorten it up a little bit. I pretend that I have tiny, puny little hands, little childlike hands. I pretend, okay? So then it still only comes out to 1, 1, 2, 2. That leaves me at the knee. Now, I cup the knee like this. It's not scrub the knee. I've seen some videos of you guys where you're kind of brushing like this. Your hands, your fingers are all over the place. Okay? All right, what I want you to do is what I'm going to do. Cup on the kneecap. Notice there's no sliding. Also notice, look at the feet while I'm doing circles on the knee. Don't look at the knee, look at the feet. Okay, now don't look at the feet. I'm doing circles on the knee. Look at her nose. Okay? So if I slide, if I scrub, now look at the feet. Now look at the nose. Even if I do circles hard enough to give her a rug burn on her knee, that nose will never move. And what that means is all the energy is collapsed into the knee. Okay? But remember, right here from the very beginning, now I did eliminate one step I always do. So, puja, warm up the hands, clap, over the feet, pause. Did they show you this at you remember this? Okay? Pause. What do you pause for? You wait till you feel the heat reflected off the foot back into your hand. That tells you you're connected. See, it's like the Bluetooth. I wait until the light goes solid, and then I know I'm connected, right? So, puja, warm up, and again, bang. Why is that? It's to bring up the chi in my hands. It's to bring up the heat and energy in my hand, which I then stab at my client. You don't have to do it. You could just drop your hands. But you pause without touching until you feel something come back to you. See, I'm projecting. When I do this, I feel the heat going out. But when I pause here for a second, I feel something come back. Okay? As soon as I feel that, I take a breath, and as I exhale, I flow into the foot. Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Okay? That's not a chiropractic adjustment. That is a spontaneous reduction based on position. I'm asking a question. How's it hanging? And the ankle said, you know, I could be better. And adjusted. All right? So now we walk in, walk out, walk in, catch the heel, and don't stop. Just keep going. 1, 2, 1, 2. Here, cup, fingers. Look at that nose. See? Energy is moving from here to there, flowing through the whole body with one little motion I'm doing. And then turn in. Now I come up on my knees. 1, 2, maybe 3, until I feel the pelvis, the front of the pelvis, right in the inguinal line. I don't stop till I feel it. Okay? Then I turn out right next to it, but not on it. Immediately adjacent, and the bulk of my hand is medial. It's not up, it's not on top, it's not out here. In fact, the closer you can get your hands, almost the better. Depends on the person, how wide their hips are, what the pelvis is like. But my thumb is on the tendon, right? So that's pretty darn close. And is it sensitive? Yes. If it's sensitive, you're in the right place. If it's not sensitive, you're not in the right place. And then you take a breath, and when you exhale, you just rock forward as far as you can without falling over. Now look at my feet. Crossed and relaxed. Not up in the air. Don't do that. That is putting tension in your hindquarters. This is not the appropriate place for that. You want your hindquarters relaxed. So the feet are down. It's okay if they're crossed, but whenever there's no tension in your legs or feet. So if your feet are up, you're holding them up, right? It's not levitation. We call that a leak energetically, unnecessary tension. Rock on and just count to 5. 1, not in a hurry. 2, feel the pulse. 3, 4, she'll feel her pulse get stronger. 5, and then before you back up, first thing you do is you exhale and rock back and wait for it, and you'll feel the heat. When you feel the heat come up in your hand, it'll come and go really fast. So you got to pay attention. The heat comes up, and then once it goes, you walk back to the knee, circles on the knee, walk back to the foot, and do the feet again with pressure. See? You know, she's getting my full body weight here, okay? Out, back, and it's only 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, okay? And finishing here, and then real quick, fingertip, thumb and fingertip, start in the arch, and just do a wiggle. Give them a wiggle. How do I know if I'm doing this right? Is I'm doing this, and if I run up the body, I can see this motion in the nose. If we put a little bit of ink on the end of her nose, and we put a little piece of paper on the end of her nose, you would actually see the sine wave, which is a magnitude order different from what I'm doing here, but you'd be able to draw what I'm doing here with her nose, okay? If I'm doing it correctly. If I'm doing it correctly, look at that. And then there's a rhythm that works best for some people. Like if I'm kind of too big, look, not much going on with that nose, right? So what I do is I kind of dial it in. There we go. There's a speed and there's a wave that will translate the energy all the way. And with soft vision, soft focus, I can see that wave move up. And I only need to do it just for a minute. You know, just 20 seconds. It's not long, because what I just was able to demonstrate for myself, okay, is that there is now relatively less stress in her spine and hips and neck than there was before. So in other words, her comportment of relaxation and stress and so on is much better just after a couple of seconds of doing the warm-up than it was before she got on the mat. And sometimes, like for me, I'll just go bub-up as a check-in before I even start to see if anything moves. It's the equivalent of a mechanic walking up to a car and kicking the tire just to see how it sounds, right? Just kick it, just thump it, just give it a kick, give it a thump, give it a smack, and it's all good if it's good, but if you give it a kick, a smack, or a thump, and you get the wrong sound back, it just, then you're like, uh-oh, maybe I should look at, and then you follow up with it, and that saves you a world of hurt. Saves you a world of hurt. It's like sometimes if I went to start a vehicle, and right when I start it, I hear some hinky noise, some valve clatter, some hinky noise, some valve clatter, and then I'll go, when was the last time I checked the oil? I'm like, oh, it's actually been like, it's probably been a couple months. So I just turn the vehicle off right then, walk out, pop the hood, take my t-shirt. No, I try to use a rag. And I check the oil, and lo and behold, if I heard something wrong before I did so, almost always it's a little bit low. So I heard it low. I heard the sound of low. Low has a sound. Imbalance has a look, both pro and con. And over time, soft focus, at least having awareness, because you've heard someone like me point it out to you, okay, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you're mechanically inclined and have done things like change your own oil on your vehicle, at least that much, then you know that you can tell that the oil is low before you hit the dipstick in a lot of situations. by how it sounds. Also, how it looks. That's called smoke. All of a sudden, your vehicle starts smoking, and you're like, wait, it's not supposed to smoke. Why is it smoke? And you check the oil, it's low. Or dry. And then you're like, quick, fix it, right? Because you're going to blow the engine. We've had students show up here with smoking, knocking, rocking engines, vehicles that died as soon as they got here. Yeah. And then we checked the oil and there was no oil. And then we checked the tread on their tires and there was no tread. Yeah. I'm not saying, specifics. I don't want to mention any names, Noi, but I want you to understand that this is actually a thing. Okay? But this is also our client. Okay? Also our client. Okay, so let's partner up. You can stop. Let's partner up.
Always find joy in the smallest of things. That is what we found in you. Oh, 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 you are joy. Never give up when the going gets rough. Hope is everything you need. Oh, 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 you are hope. Oh, 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 you are hope. And don't forget you're not alone. The Holy Spirit wants to guide you on. The journey, child, will never end. Once your heart's been marked by a love for Him.